Hello, everyone. We will take 5 minutes and we will start, okay? Please, interns, that's my voice clear. Okay, thank you. Five minutes and we will start, okay? Engineer Peter, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, it's clear.
Engineer Peter?
No, no.
Engineer Peter,
Yes, okay, I'm here. Okay.
hello.
Hello, Sahar. Can you
How
hear
are
me?
you? Yes, 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 I hear you.
Okay.
Okay. Can we start?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Okay.
Can you allow me to share?
Okay. That's okay.
Okay. Just a moment. Entire screen. Okay. Sure. Okay. Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Should I start now? Okay.
Yes. Okay. Please, would you, Engineer Peter, hello?
Yes. Yes. I'm
Could you
hearing you.
please introduce yourself to our interns?
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello, everybody. My name is Peter Magdi. I'm a senior reservoir engineer with 11 years experience in reservoir management and simulation, managing mature fields in Gulf of South. Currently, I'm the South and South Central Area Reservoir Engineering Team Leader. I'm responsible for managing 15 fields, two giant fields and other plus 100 stoi fields and some small fields. In the next 1 hour, I'll cover the material balance. Firstly, I'll go something theoretically about this type and reserve calculations and when to think about material balance. Okay, firstly, we have different methods to calculate this type and the reserves. The simple one and based on geological, it's the volumetric method. It's in the early stage of reservoir development. It depends mainly on geological interpretation of the reservoir itself and plus the BVT data. The recovery factor are assigned based on benchmarking and analogy. It doesn't depend on the time nor production. The second method is the material balance. It's the one in our focus. Actually, you can think in material balance if you have I can say that you have produced for several months and years. You should produce around 20% of the reserves of this reservoir. And when we have, when you notice that you have a reservoir depletion, actually you would depend on the geological data, rock and fluid properties, and mainly the production data. Production data means the oil production, gas production, water production, and reservoir pressure performance. In such case, the recovery factor is calculated. Material balance is time dependent, so the more time you have produced, the more accurate model you will have in material balance. The third one is the decline curve analysis. Actually, it's a curve fitting method. It depends on the production data versus time. In such case, you would wait when you till you have a reasonable and enough data of production with time. The recovery factor is calculated and it's time dependent. The last one is the most accurate one, which is the simulation. Actually, it can be applied in any stage, either in the exploration, development, and production phase in each case. In this method, you will depend on geological data, rock and fluid properties, production data. And actually, it's the most useful case for reservoir management. Here is actually a summary of one about the methods. So when we look at the material balance you use when you have a production data. And the more production data, the more accurate model you will have of material balance. And here is the data you want. Actually in material balance, you need BVT data, you need production and injection data, and you need pressure data. This is the most important thing. From material balance, you calculate this type, the original hydrocarbon in place or gas in place, and also we can estimate the ultimate recovery. Material balance itself, as I mentioned, this is the application of material balance. The concept of material balance, okay, it's a simple concept that if you have a reservoir, the initial volume you have is gas and oil, as you see in the graph, and after production you would have a volume remaining of oil and gas, and also this volume, some of these volumes have been removed, and another materials or fluids has replaced. So in such case, such case, the beginning you have gas and oil zone. After production, you will have remaining oil. You have remaining gas. If you have the gas cap, so you have a new volume of gas. And then with production, if you get close the bubble point, some gas has been evolved. So this will occupy some of the volume of the pore volume. If you are injecting gas or water, in such case, this will occupy some of the pore volume you have. And if we have an aquifer, so we have an influx of water. Based on this concept, this is the definition. Actually, in the beginning, you have gas and oil, and it's the initial oil in place, and here is its equation. Okay, and here is the gas, and here is its equation. G beta Gi equal M, which is the initial gas cap ratio to the oil zone multiplied by the N and beta OI. After production, what we have, I have a remaining oil, which is N minus NB multiplied by the formation volume factor. And then you have a volume of the new gas cap and also the volume of the evolved solution gas. I'll go through these equations quickly to start the material balance model. And here is the equation of the volume of the evolved solution gas. After that, you would have the net influx, and here is its equation. And we have different models of aquifer. We will go through in the IMBAL. And after that, we have the water and rock expansion. Actually, this term is very important when you have undersaturated reservoir. But after getting below the bubble point, or if you have a water flood, or you have an aquifer support or a gas cap, this term is completely neglected as its value is minimal compared to the others. And also, if you have a gas and water injection. If we return back to the original equation, that the pore volume in the beginning occupied by gas and oil zone and oil. After that, you may be occupied, this volume may be occupied by all of these terms or some of these terms. So, so the equation would became like that. So from knowing all of this, I can know N. Okay? If you look at these terms, actually, I need a production data of oil. I need beta O, which is the BVT data. Beta G is the BVT data, R is BVT data. GB, the production of gas. This is measured. WB, which is the produced water. This is measured. Beta W, or water formation volume factor. This is estimated based on the salinity of the water. while I don't know the WE, which is the influx of the aquifer. All of the other terms are knowing or estimated from the BVT. So in such case, the unknowns are the aquifer, the stoic in place, and the gas in place. This is some of generalized of the equations. Actually, this is divided into different drive in the index. So in such case, I may have a depletion index, this term, or gas expansion, and here is the term, water drive term, and rock and water expansion. The summation of all these indices are equal 1. So at any time, the summation of each index of drive mechanism would be 1. Here is a screenshot from the imbal. If you look at this with time, actually the drive mechanism index, it changes with time. So this blue is the fluid expansion. Actually, in this model, I started a water injection, so that's why this yellow indicates that in this time I started the water injection. The green is the BV compressibility. You can notice that it has the minimal percentage, and I have a water influx. With time, it changes. Okay? This is another one when I have a very strong aquifer support. In such case, the dominant drive mechanism is the water influx. And we will go through through this in the material balance. Okay? So I think that that's enough. Okay. So now we will start the embed. This is when we open the embed, we find that there is a file. This file is open and new, the tool. In such case, I will use the material balance tool. Just I press on the material balance. I have here a tank, which is the reservoir I will work on. And I have options. When I press on options, now the model or the embed asks me what is the type of the reservoir fluid. So I may have oil, gas, retrograde, or gas condensate reservoir or general. Actually, I will choose oil as the data I have currently is oil. He will ask me if I will model a single tank or I have a multiple tanks. So for simplicity, we will build a single tank model. For the BVT, he will ask me if I have a simple BVT table or variable BVT. Actually, in some cases, when I have a compositional gradient reservoir, I may, if I want to build an accurate model, I would provide the imbal with multiple BVT data. Each of BVT data represent the fluid properties of the oil at definite depths of this reservoir. As in compositional gradient reservoir, the properties of the oil, it changes with depth. And it's a special case of reservoirs. So in this model, we will build a sample BVT model. Now he will ask me if I will input the production data by tank or by well. By tank, I will sum all of the production data from each well, and this summation will represent the whole reservoir. Or I will introduce wells into the model, and then introduce the production data and pressure data for each well. Actually, the most practical is the by tank, and this is the most popular one. So you will input the whole tank data. Now, if he will ask you if you have a compositional model, so now I will say it's a none. I will use a normal black oil model. Now I should introduce my company. So in just case, I will say OPA. The field I can say GOS 1 field, location in GOS. platform. If you are an offshore, so you will say that I have different platforms. So I will say platform A, analyst, I will say my name. This would be like a reference if anyone will use the Imbal model. And here is the data stamp. So I started the model in Monday, 15th of September, 2025. And if you have any comments, you want to say that I built this model the sake of the model, or any annotation about the production data, the pressure data uncertainty, or whatever the message you want to deliver, either for yourself for when you check this model, or for others when they will review the model. Okay, done. Now, as we see in the slide, that I need the BVT data, the fluid properties data. So now will go to the fluid properties. So here he will ask me about the formation gas oil ratio. Okay, actually, if you can see, I want to make sure that you are following me and you can see the Excel. Sahar? Okay. 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 If anyone can write, just
Do you
okay.
see
Actually,
that?
before going to that, Levy, ask me if it's used for any kind of reservoir. Actually, it's used for any type of reservoir. It's used for oil, gas, or gas condensate. Okay. I want to say, is it clear now? Okay. Okay. Here in this model, I'm presenting the BFT data. Actually, I have the temperature. This model, the Imbal want to know the temperature of the reservoir. Actually, you can get this information from the BVT report of your reservoir. Secondly, here is the pressure data. You want to know the bubble point, GOR, which represents the RS, or solution gas oil ratio, solution gas. Beta O represents the oil formation volume factor, and oil viscosity. Actually, I'm presenting this in this format. This is the format Imbal understand. Okay, and this table is the adjusted table. As you know that in BVT we have different experiments. We have CCA constant composition expansion. We have differential, and we have separator. This table should be the adjusted BVD data. As in above the bubble point, you get the data of the properties of my oil from the CCE, while below the bubble point, I get it from the differential. And all of these experiments, this experiment should be adjusted to separator, so to get a representative BVD table. Okay, so from this, the GOR or RS, which is the solution gas above and at the bubble point, it is 1350. So in this case, I will get this data, copy, and return back to the model. So the formation gas is 1350. ABI, okay. Actually, I should put it in the model. So in such case, as I know my reservoir, it's 31. The gas gravity, you get it from also the BFT. In such case, it's 75. The water salinity. Actually, this information, it's for introduction about your model, and from this the water salinity, the Imbal will calculate the whole properties of water, like the water formation volume factor, the water viscosity, or whatever the data he uses in the equations. Water salinity, actually, you get it from the chemical lab data. Actually, in the chemical lab or the production man, get a sample from the water produced from your reservoir. By analysis, you got the water salinity. In my model, actually, in my reservoir, the water salinity is 120,000 ppm. Okay, H2S, CO2, and N2, actually you get it from the compositional analysis of my reservoir. So H2S in such case is 0, CO2 is 0.2, N2 is 0.25. Okay, now you get a generalized information, but actually the model needs, okay, there is a chat, okay, comment, okay, okay. But actually, as you see in the equations, I need the BVT properties and BVT data at each reservoir pressure. So if my reservoir originally is the original reservoir pressure is 5,000 psi, but with production, my pressure dropped to 4,000, 3,000, 2,000, 1,000, till the abandonment pressure, which is 300 psi. When I solving the material balance equations, I need to have the beta O and beta G and RS at each time step. So in such case, the model needs the BVT table to be able to calculate and match my data. So you have easier if you have a BVT data and the table covers the whole information. So in such case, I will go to the tables and then I will copy and paste this format. That's why I have input this data and the BFT data in such format. As this is the format the Imbal understand. So I'll get copy and paste and then here right click and paste. Just a moment. As you can see that he got the information and he put it in the format. So I want to make sure the temperature is 310, the bubble point 2950 BSIG, and here is the pressure GOR, scope stock tank barrel, oil formation volume factor, and oil viscosity. So actually, I also may need, but if I don't have any column, it's okay. I need a gas formation volume factor, gas viscosity, and water formation volume factor. The water formation volume factor, as I mentioned, he will get it from the salinity I have in. And then I would say done. And as you can see, here's a mark he will use tables. If I don't have enough data, I can say the range will not cover the whole pressure, I will go to match. In such case, I will provide the imbal with the BFT data, and based on that, he will make iterate on different correlations he has on the oil and the other stuff of properties to get a generalized correlation. He will build the BFT data from it. So in such case, I will return back to the temperature and the whole table. Copy and paste. And again, paste. Here is the data. And then I will press on match at this bottom, match. I will tell him to calculate. So here he has different correlations for bubble point, RS beta O. He has glass standing, luster, Vasquez, Biggs, okay, Al-Mahroun, and the Petrovsky. This is the different correlations he has. And oil viscosity, the same like the if you build an equation of state model, oil viscosity has a different correlation. He using calculations. Okay. Based on that, I'll go to the matching parameter. You have parameter one and parameter two. Actually, parameter one, you choose the correlation who's the parameter one يعني be the more the nearest point to one. While in parameter two, you choose the parameter two, the nearest point to zero, and the lowest standing deviation, standard deviation. Okay? So in such case, you will not have يعني a good parameters or one. Okay. Why the bubble point is constant? Okay, then actually the bubble point is constant for each type of oil you have, unless you have a compositional gradient. The normal reservoirs has single properties of oil. So the bubble point is the pressure at which the first bubble of gas evolved from the oil. So that's why the bubble point is constant, as it's the first pressure I have a bubble of gas evolving. Okay, unless you have a compositional gradient reservoir, and it's a special case if you have a one homogeneous reservoir whose thickness is around plus 500 feet. So this column, this column of oil represents that the heavier components of oil be at the bottom, while the lighter components be at the shallowest point. That's why you have a compositional gradient. In this special case, you have different bubble points. But if you have a simple and the most popular reservoir, you have a single bubble point pressure. Okay? Based on that, I will choose Glasso in both actually. Okay, so Glasso and Betal for the bubble point RS and beta O, while oil viscosity, I'll choose Biggs and Al. Okay? Done? Done. Okay? So he will use matching in such case. So in this point, he will get the BVT data from the correlation he matched in the model. Okay? Then I have finalized the BVT data, and then I will go to the input data. In input data, actually, he needs the temperature. The temperature, as we see from the BVT, it's a 310. So what is the initial reservoir pressure? We'll go to the production data. The initial reservoir pressure is 5400 psi. Okay, I'll go to this. For the porosity, actually porosity is not used in the material balance calculations, but actually it's used mainly when you have an aquifer. It's used in the equations he used for calculation of the aquifer properties and the aquifer support. So in this reservoir, I know that the porosity is 12%. And here you can see that I put it as a fraction. The porosity data, you get it from the petrophysical analysis of any open hole log or a core data. Connate water saturation, I know it from the relative permeability data and also from the open hole logs. So here in such case, I know I have the relative permeability data, so the connate water saturation in 20%. So copy and paste. Water compressibility, I tell him to use correlation, and which correlation and how he will build the correlation depends on the water salinity. I have input in the BFTD. Okay, initial gas cap. Do you have an initial gas cap? He asking you. If you know that you don't have a gas cap, and when you drill in your well, you didn't see any oil, any gas column in your reservoir, so you'll say initial gas cap is 0. If you have a gas cap, you will put a percentage, so I may say 0.2 or 0.3, and actually MBAL can help me to determine the volume of the gas cap. So in such case, I may use put any number like 0.3, 0.2 if I don't know the initial gas cap, and then while matching the model, I can get understanding and knowing the value of the gas cap. But in my model here, I say it's 0. Okay. Secondly, the original oil in place or stock tank or stock. Actually, he asking me about the original oil in place. He will get this point as the first point in matching. But I don't know actually, and in most cases, you don't know the original oil in place. And even if you have a calculation from the G&G in the using the volumetric equation, it's not accurate. And actually, if it's accurate, in such cases, your wells are seeing much more STOIIP than the calculated by the G&G. So in such case, you may have an extension. I'm sorry, I just okay, I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry. Okay, here is a question: why initial gas doesn't have a unit? Actually, the initial gas cap here, it's a fraction. If you return back to the slides, the gas cap, for simplicity and for lowering the numbers of uncertainties, I provide the gas cap M as a fraction. So like I hear, if I have the volume of gas like X and have a volume of oil like X, like Y, so X over Y, here is the ratio of the gas cap. This represent how much of the pure volume is occupied by the gas cap. Okay, so here is M, it's a fraction of the total pure volume occupied by either gas or oil in my reservoir. Okay, so if you don't have, again, I will return back. So in some cases, the volume calculated by the G&G is much lower than the volume calculated and from the material balance. In this occasion, you may have a much more STOIIP and the area you think you're producing from is much bigger than you expect. And we have a case where the G&G estimated the original oil in place of around 40 million stock tank barrel. But from material balance, we found that the lower matching STOIIP is 100. Based on that, we have an exploration campaign and found that our reservoir is much more extended than we expect. And in some cases, the material balance STOIIP calculated from the material balance is much lower than the volumetrics. So in this case, maybe your reservoir, it's not one tank, and you may have a barrier, a fault, or whatever that divide your reservoir into two portions. So in such case, based on the information you get from material balance, you may recommend to drill a well far from the current well, so you may find a new exploration and an isolated block. Okay? In such case, I will say I may have a 15 or whatever. This is a matching. This is you guess any number. This is not the final number, as while we are working, the imbal will change. Okay? And then return back, he asks me about when I started my production. So I started in 1st of Jan 1998. So copy and then return back, start of production. Okay. Here is the option. If you want to monitor the contacts, imbal can help you to monitor the contact. As with production, the contacts of either the water oil contact or the gas oil contact can change with time. So imbal can help you in such case. I will show you later how to use this option. But in my simple case, I'll go then to water influx. And he asked me if I have a water influx or not. I should here return back to the cum water production. As you see in such case that the cum water production is very low. As with production, actually, I have produced less around 0.1 million barrel of water. So in this case, I have a neglected aquifer. And here, and actually, water influx is also a matching parameter. So with production, with matching, I may find that I should introduce an aquifer to my model. But in such case, I say it's none. But if I have an aquifer, actually I don't know which model I should use. Should I use small boat, Herst van Everdingen, Ode or Dijk or whatever, Vitkovic or whatever? So I will choosing the proper water influx model. It's a matching parameter. You are moving from a model to a model till you get a model that help you in matching your data. But here I can say it's none. Okay? For water compressibility, actually, it's calculated from a correlation. Rock compaction, okay? It's also if I have a porosity, so he calculate the rock compressibility from the porosity, and then I go to the relative permeability. Actually, in relative permeability, I ask you if he use the Curie function or tables. Okay, Curie function, I introduce the endpoints and the Curie exponent. Tables, if I have a scaled and then I have a relative permeability tables, I can introduce. So in such case, if I press on tables, he asked me to put the water saturation versus the relative permeability of water, oil saturation versus relative permeability of oil, and so on for gas. And here is for simplicity, I say I have a Curie function. Actually, the residual water saturation for water, it represents the connate water saturation. For oil, represents the residual oil saturation. For gas, represents the um, uh, I'm sorry, it represents the first point. It represents residual gas saturation. Okay, and here is the endpoint. Endpoint represents the relative permeability at the maximum water saturation. Okay. I'm sorry, the residual saturation for gas, it's the critical water saturation, which is the point at saturation at which gas started to move. Exponent represents the Curie exponents. And in most likely cases, you got it from the scale data. Okay, by matching the relative probability I got from scale data. So I return back to my model, get all of this, then copy, and then paste. Here's an option which is called the water sweep efficiency and gas sweep efficiency. Most likely, by default, the model represented as 100%, but you can change this item if you are monitoring the water oil contact and gas oil contact to get matching. Then I go to the production history. In this case, I return back to production data. Actually, I format my data like date and then pressure at each time. I have a pressure point. I get the pressure, then cum oil production, cum gas production, and cum water. Okay? So I get it copy, return back to my model, and then paste. As you can see that the cum gas injection and cum water injection, I don't have either gas injection or water injection, so it's null. I didn't input any data. Another option, the impel permit you if you have a strong aquifer. So in such case, you will produce above the bubble point pressure, and if you have an inaccuracy in the gas measurement, gas production measurement, you can see that I want to work with GOR, and then you can input the cum GOR. If you're above the bubble point, you can get it from the slightly from the BVT data and input the data here. Okay, but now I have a gas measurement, so I can say it's okay. I will work with the production data. Okay, then done. After that, the most important thing, it's the matching. I want to know if my model match or not. So this graph represents the tank pressure versus the oil production data. As you can see, these points or these symbol represents the actual production data. The cum oil production versus pressure. But the model, based on the stoic I have input, he found that no, actually I should have a quicker and sharper and slope of production. So in such case, he represents that no, actually when I produced around 3 million, my pressure should be less than 202, 2200 psi. But actually, my model sees that add after producing 3 million stock tank barrel, my pressure was 3000 psi. So what should I do? I'll go to regression. Here I have only one uncertainty, which is the oil in place. So I mark on it and then calculate. So the model and the Imbal model sees that my stock should be 34 million stock tank barrel. So I accept this. So will put OK, done. As you see here, actually the model, the Imbal model have matched my production data. Okay. Then I said finish. And then if I check the energy plot, as you see that the main drive mechanism is fluid expansion. Okay? And I have a lower effect of the pore volume compressibility. So in such case, I have a typical depletion drive reservoir. Okay? Finish. If you return back to input, tank data, you can see that he has modified the input oil in place to be 34. Okay? Done. If I have an aquifer support, then I will not have a matching by not introducing an aquifer model. So now I will try if I will input as a water influx. So I can say firstly, and the a practical approach is start from a small pot, which represent a small aquifer. In a small pot, okay, I will put any number. So I will say it's 1000 million feet cube, and then done. If I go to analytical method in history matching, you can see here that the model now with aquifer support, with aquifer influx, which is the blue line, is overestimating the aquifer strength or overestimating the energy or drive mechanism energy I have in my model. So I have a higher pressure than actually I have witnessed with production. But in such case, I will get regression. You can see that here, he want me to, you have three options to regress an oil in place, aquifer volume, or porosity. So if I told him to regress on oil in place and then calculate, now he has decreased the volume of oil or the stock tank, I'm sorry, the oil initially in place. Why? Because he sees that the energy, he has a different energy that supports the pressure. So if in such case, if I say, okay, no, actually, he can't have a good match. No. If I want to him, I will say, let's regress in all uncertainties. No. Actually, the pressure, the porosity, I'm sure it's 12%. So I want him to regress on this. Now he returned back. Actually, this reservoir is typical a depletion drive reservoir. So in this case, he has minimized the total volume of aquifer in place. But if I'm sure, or I have an aquifer, or if I'm sure that the model cannot match my data using only oil in place, I should introduce an aquifer. So, and the normal and practical mechanism is return back to input and then it change the model. So I may say that let's match using Hurst van Everdingen. And actually, Hurst van Everdingen, O'Day, and Dake are the best models used for aquifer. And then, okay, and now he has different parameters, dimensionless time, an aquifer constant, and the percentage of aquifer size to reservoir size. And then done. Return back to my model analytical, and then regression. I tell him to regress in all of these parameters. And again, if you see that he minimized the volume, the aquifer constant, the parameters of an aquifer. And again, I have matched my model. In some cases, if this is a sample example, for sake of time, I have already to match model and few pressure points. In some cases, I have a lot of pressure points. And in some cases, I get at any point and then press on it, double click. I say, I give it a low weight. I'm not sure about the measurement of this point. For this point is odd point regarding the other points. So in such case, I'll give it a low weight. Or in other cases, I have a point, I'm sure about it. A point I get it from a pressure buildup, a point I get it from RFT, or whatever, I give it a high. In some cases, if I have a completely odd point, I may say, let's do it off model. Don't match it. As you see, he changes the model, and if I get a regression, and this, and then calculate, done? No, he can't match this with an aquifer. No, actually, I'm sorry, he matching, I'm sorry, as he is off point, so he matching these 2 points, okay? But if I return back this point on, he modifies itself and he modifies the calculation, and actually he can match this point. And again, if I go to this point and say it's off, as you can see, he matched, and then the regression, he slightly changes this time. Okay? Then return back. I have the call points again. Okay, he matched. And then go to run simulation. I want him to calculate the production data with pressure. So he calculates each point, the producing GOR, if you have uncertainty, the average water saturation, the average gas saturation, the average oil saturation, and the whole stuff, and also the oil recovery factors. That's why we said that the oil recovery factor is calculated from inbound. Okay? Then done. And then I go to sensitivity. In such point, I give him different steps. I want to make sure that the model have a single point of matching. So in such case, I will say the minimum is 10 and the maximum is 100. And then plot. As you can see that the lowest in standard deviation approaching 0 is at a range around 35 million. But if I have a lower STOIB, the standard deviation may be increased until 60%. And if I have a much higher STOIB, also the standard deviation increases. So this helps me to identify and to make sure that my model have a very limited range. And I want to give you an information. If you have an aquifer support and a strong aquifer support, in such case, the standard deviation, it's not like that. Actually, the standard deviation, you will have a wide range of uncertainty, and you have a wide range of STOIB. You can match your model. As IMBAL is not a practical method if you have a very strong aquifer. You want to make sure about your STOIB calculation from volumetric methods, and it would be more accurate than IMBAL. Using IMBAL in a strong aquifer, it's not accurate. Okay? I think I'm losing time, so I want to open if anyone want to ask about anything before going to monitoring contact. if anyone want to ask, okay? Why when the tank pressure becomes 3000 psi, oil start production? No, actually, the model start production from the beginning. As here, if you go to plot, تمام, variables, and now I will choose here from here the oil production data. No, sorry, finish. Okay, now here I go to plot and I say in variables, I want to him here plot not tank pressure. I will choose the oil production data or cum oil production versus time. Okay, done. As you can see here from the beginning, here is the dark line, the red is the reservoir pressure, while the green is the cum oil production. So I started production when my pressure uh, was 4400 psi from the beginning. As you can see that the oil production increases. So actually, when reservoir pressure was, okay, when reservoir pressure was 3000, I actually have produced the 3 million of oil. Okay, another question. If no aquifer will be water production or it's impossible. Actually, in most cases, even if you don't have an aquifer production, you will have water production, but it's actually I can say it's missed or it would be very low numbers. In most cases, I may have a very weak aquifer. This very weak aquifer doesn't support my pressure, and its effect is negligible. But if you drill a down dip well, this down dip well may get a water and may produce some water. Okay? So in most cases, if I don't have an aquifer or a very weak aquifer, I will have a very low water production. Okay? And in most cases, if you have a depletion drive, if you get a sample of oil, in most cases we say traces water cut. Actually, traces water cut, it would be around 1% or whatever. Okay? In some cases, you have a weak aquifer where your wells get water, produce water, but the effect of the aquifer is very low. So the main criteria, does my pressure is supported with aquifer or not? This is the first point. So that's why in some cases, my wells doesn't see water, and I'm sure that I have a very limited STOIB, so I should introduce some aquifer to my model. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. Why did you get the initial pressure from? Okay, I will start from the first one. Why did you get initial pressure from production data, not BVT? Actually, if you check any BVT report, he get a wide range of pressure, and in most cases he doesn't start the experiment at the initial reservoir pressure. In most cases, if your reservoir pressure, initial reservoir pressure, is around 5000 psi, he may start his analysis at 6000 as he raise the pressure. That's why the initial reservoir pressure you get from either the DST or pressure buildup or BVT or static, you get it while perforating the formation. This is the initial reservoir pressure. Okay? How does Imbal handle compartmentalization reservoir or reservoir with multiple zones? Okay, in this case, okay, I'll go to here in options. Okay, and then I say it's a single tank. No, I say it's a multiple tank. Okay, so I have here a tank one. I will say add tank. Here, I say it's called a tank two. and then I will introduce the whole parameters. If they are a compartmentalization, I have the same BVT, I will introduce the whole stuff I have input in the first model, okay? And then to get the connectivity between the both tank 1 and tank 2, I add a transmissibility, okay? Done. And then I say it's between tank 1 and tank 2. Okay, and then we have a matching parameter, which is the transmissibility. That's why you will match in such case you are matching the stop in tank 1 and stop in tank 2 and the transmissibility, which defines the connectivity among both aquifers. Okay, so I say here the transmissibility, I put it like any 0.2, and then permeability correction for transmissibility. Okay, I know I say it's 1. Okay, and then you are following the whole stuff. Okay, now here I say no threshold, as pressure threshold represent that the pressure at which both tanks start to connect with each other. Here I say no, it's not. Okay, here is the point. Any other questions? Okay, for secure time, I'll go to the monitor contacts, and if anyone has a question, I will answer after making this. Okay. Okay, and now I will remove this one. I'm not using. Transmissibility, I'm not using. Delete. Okay. I just have the tank one. In such case, if I want to monitor the contact, and also I want to mention that in Bell, it's not an accurate tool. It's a zero-dimension tool, but it has some benefits, especially if you have a depletion drive, or if you have a 100% accurate calculation of a stoic. It helps you define the aquifer strength, and it helps you in prediction also. Now I will say monitor contact. If, if you can see that while monitor contact, the bore volume versus depth, it's not activated. But if I press monitor contact, now it's red. What actually this model want me to do? Okay, and now I will go to Bell and I draw something. To do this, I return back to the geology, and ask him to give me the bore volume versus depth. Okay, insert another here. Okay, and then he give me like at these steps I can say a bore 100 feet or 1000 feet of bore volume, and as these depths I have like 10,000, and here at the water air contact I have a 100. This is any hypothetical numbers. Okay, what I actually do is make a fraction. And Bell doesn't understand these numbers. He understands the fraction. It started from 0 to 1. So then I will say that at the top of reservoir, it's 0. Okay? But at this depth, like I can say this depth is it's 5,000 TVD sub C. This is 5,500. Okay? TVD sub C. And this is 6,000. Okay? The top, okay, and then the top of reservoir, it's like 4,900 BSA. I'm sorry, feet. Okay. So at this depth, I have a zero pore volume. At depth of 5,000 TVD subsea, I have 1,000 over 100,000. So it's 0.01. At 5,500 feet TVD, I have zero point 0.1 of the total bore volume. While at the water oil contact, I have one. Okay? So in such case, I will say like 409. I'm sorry, this is okay. See zero on top of reservoir, and then zero point 0.1 at 5,000. 0 point, okay, here is, okay. And now it's zero point 0.1 and 1 at the water oil contact, which is 6,000. Okay, done. So he understand. Okay, as you see that he told you that bore volume definition, bore volume equals 0 at the top of reservoir, bore volume equal 1 at the original oil water contact. Okay, then I say okay, and then after doing a history matching, okay. Mhm. Okay. Okay. Here is the gas oil contact, and where is water oil water contact versus, okay, versus time. Done. Okay. Now you can see that the yellow is the gas oil contact. So at the beginning, I don't have any gas. Okay. But with time, the gas oil contact currently, or at 2015, the gas oil contact was 5790. Okay. And here is also the water oil contact. And to make it more accurate, I just want to change the scale. Okay. Okay, and I just want to in display scale. Display function. Okay, actually, there is bottom where I change the scale to make it more uniform and more scales. Okay. So, mm. So whatever, okay, and you can check it. It's simple. Just we want to make it both the gas oil contact and the oil water contact at the same depths. Okay. Another question: what if I have an original gas oil contact? Now I will make another column. Here is for oil. For gas, it would be the opposite. In such case, the zero represents the water-oil contact, while -1 represents top of reservoir. So in such case, I would say that the top of reservoir, which is around 4,000 feet TVD subsea, is -1. And the water oil contact, which is at 4,900 feet TVD subsea, is 0. And then continue. Okay? So what you are doing mainly, okay, just copy. I'm sorry. Copy table. Okay, and then -1 at, okay. Now I have introduced, if I have a gas initial gas cap, I can monitor. The best practice, if you have a saturation look or you have drilled wells with time and you get contacts, so you have a matching parameter. If the model show a different contacts than the data you already have, so you should return back into the tank data in relative permeability and then start to modify and change the water sweep efficiency and gas sweep efficiency to match the points you are sure about it. Okay? Any questions? Okay, does anyone have want to ask anything about finalizing this session? Okay. Actually, the definition of gas sweep efficiency and water sweep efficiency, it's how much of the reservoir oil is contacted with water. So if you have an aquifer, if you have a water injection, how much of this water, of this oil, is contacted with water, and water has sweep this volume in front of it. Okay, and the same for gas. And the more and the higher the sweep efficiency, either gas or water, the higher recovery you achieved. If you have a low sweep efficiency, in such case that you have you will have a huge volume of bypassed oil. So if you are injecting and the water just contacted and sweep 10% of the whole oil, you have a very poor sweep efficiency. Okay? This is the definition of sweep efficiency. In this case, Imbal recommend that you can change these parameters while matching the water oil contact or the gas oil contact. If you are not monitoring a contact, so don't change this, it won't affect anything. Okay? If it's clear? Okay, any other question? Okay. Sahar, are you here?
Yes, Engineer Peter, I'm here.
Okay, actually I have finalized, so
Okay.
thank you for attending, and I hope that this session would be beneficial for you.
Thank you, Engineer Peter, for your effort and for this great session. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have one question
Okay.
from Engineer Aya.
Okay, actually I have answered.
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay.
Thank you all interns for attending session. Thank you all.